You're listening to the Matador Beat.
Welcome, Red Raiders, to the Matador Beat. I'm China Vargas, the opinions editor, joined by
Toluwani, the copy editor.
And I am so excited to start this project/series called Women in Journalism. I told Toluwani this idea kind of came to me in the summer when we had training, and I realized that most of our editorial staff was women. And I was like, well, we should celebrate this. It should be acknowledged. And then I wanted to create this series to educate, just talk, almost like The View, you know? And so I'm really excited just to be having conversations of what it's like to be women in this industry. So no pressure or anything, but Toluwani, tell me why you decided to choose journalism as your major.
Well, when I was in high school, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. All I knew is that I liked to read and I liked to write and I liked like watching the news. I would like watch CNN with my parents like every day. And so just by like proximity, I learned to love the news. So I was like, this journalism thing sounds kind of cool. Right. And before I came to tech, I really thought journalism was just like you sit on TV and you talk about politics or whatever. Right. But it's so much more than that. And when I came to tech, I just learned so much more than I thought I ever would, and that's how I'm here.
That's cool. You're a third year?
Yes.
Okay, a third year. Did you do anything in high school that kind of swayed you into journalism, or?
I didn't even do, like, so we had yearbook, and then we had, like, the announcements, so the people who would, like, sit on the announcements and be like, today for lunch we have blah, 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 but I was so scared because I was like, I don't want to be on camera, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, I'm not going to do journalism in high school. Actually, up until, like, my senior year, I thought I was going to be an engineer.
Oh, wow.
I was literally going to apply to tech as a civil engineering major. I was taking engineering science, AP calculus,
so
BC.
She's smart. She's smart.
I literally failed calculus. You know, so I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. Let's try this journalism thing out. And so it wasn't really until I got to college that I actually, like, started to put myself in journalism. And I didn't join the DT until last semester, which was my sophomore year.
Yeah.
So I really kind of got my feet wet kind of late.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, that's completely normal. I was kind of the same way. I thought I was going to major in English. Like, that's how I tell everyone, is I was like, I love reading, I love writing as well, and I'm just like, obviously, you know, English. Although I felt like it just... And, like, I shout out to all the English majors, but I really did think it was kind of boring. And I didn't think I was going to push 4 years and like for English. So I toured tech my junior year of high school, and I just put journalism down. And, you know, that was basically a whim because I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Then I spoke to one of the, like, head advisors at this college, and she was just like, this is the classes you would need to take. And I was just like, oh, well, all these classes sound fun, you know? And then there's just so many elements to journalism that I don't think people realize because, and you probably get this too, they're like, what do you want to do with journalism? That's actually one of my follow-up questions. But, you know, they're like, what do you want to do? Like, write newspapers or go on the news? And I'm like, I mean, that's part of it. But there's so much more to it. Like, what do you say to people that are just like, what do you want to do?
Yeah, especially, like, coming from, like, my family's Nigerian, so we have, like, our kind of inner circle community is made up of immigrants, and they're not, like, totally aware of what it is, but they just know that, like, they see Anderson Cooper on CNN, they see him, like, and so that's what they expect.
Right.
And I always got, well, how are you going to do that? You're so quiet. You don't talk. You can't interview people. And I was like, true. That is true. Yeah. But that's not the only facet of journalism. And there's so much you can do with it. You can be behind the scenes. You can be in front of the camera. You can be typing away.
Yeah.
So it's really welcome to everybody. And it doesn't have to be so one-track minded.
Yeah. I think when people, especially like at career fairs so far, when we're trying to like hire people for the DT, they're like, oh, I don't know how to write. I'm like, that's okay. We're going to teach you. Like, of course, we're like writing based, but just as we're doing a podcast right now, we have our digital content manager. Like, there's so much to it, especially now with like, what is it, like self-responsibility journalism, where people tweet, people Instagram, people
citizen journalism.
Yeah, and so it's like everyone is doing it. It's just now we've said like this is what my degree is in. So.
And like in the journalism, like to their credit, the journalism department at Tech, like they really drill into you reading. I mean, you're taking news writing, you're taking reporting, you're taking all these different classes that are teaching you how to write well, and how to write for different mediums. So it doesn't really matter what your skill level is going into it. You're still going to learn something.
Yeah, this is a plug-in for College of Communication. So I already kind of asked you, what do you want to do with it? What do you have like any goals as a journalist that you want to accomplish?
To be honest, my like perspective on journalism has changed. I feel like I don't want to go the traditional route with journalism. Yeah. And it's more about now like what I'm learning as I kind of weave into these other like facets of it. Like me now as a copy editor. I love being copy editor. Right. I love like going in and reading stuff and like fixing things.
Fixing all our mistakes.
And like making sure something is like polished and clean. And that's something I never would have realized unless I came to the DT. I didn't even think that was an option for me as like a first year, and I was just taking all of these like ethics classes that I wasn't sure how they applied. So I think now that I have more quote unquote experience, I know that even if I don't become a reporter or a broadcast journalist or whatever, I can still take the skills that I've learned and transfer it to other fields.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, granted, we're nowhere near like the finish line, but you closer than me, but I was just always like overwhelmed of what I could do. And people do put the reporter or, you know, in front of the camera, look pretty type thing, and I mean, that's nice, but I feel like I'm the same way as you, where I've learned so many things you could do behind the scenes that's just as impactful. I mean, I've even thought about writing for a magazine. Like,
that would be so
I mean,
cool.
and people think, oh my gosh, like magazines, you know, that's not serious writing and whatnot. But I don't know, there's Time magazine and like there are
Vogue, everything.
And again, like another facet of journalism, there's fashion journal, like so much to do. And so I thought about it, and I do like writing for a publication, especially a print one. So it's you know, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I want to be in that kind of realm, per se. Okay, so I saw from this website called lenfestinstitute.org, where they took like 59 women journalists and were like, what are the top 5 skills to succeed in your career, and blah, blah, blah. I took some of them, and then others I thought were kind of mine input. And again, I'm just a second year, like these are not guaranteed to help you, but so my 5 tips are: write about what you care about. I think that is self-explanatory. You're more passionate that way. I know sometimes, especially like in this field, you have to be just kind of do as you're told, but I think you can also do what you want. Like, that's the freedom of this job. Get experience. Chalawani and I both agree, right? That this job has this job has been helpful with trying to get experience, and then hopefully going out later. And then especially since have you done your internship?
No.
See? And this is going to help you.
Yes, very much so.
And even do internships when it's, if you're a journalism major, do internships when it's not required. I think I did a mini winter one last year, and it was really helpful. And it wasn't exactly journalism, but it still was that experience of media and analytics and just trying to understand that all. My third one is write for practice. I said as anything. I think lists, notes, journal. People don't realize like that stuff helps, you know, just writing, and they're like, oh, I'm not good at writing. I'm like, well, do you take notes? Do you how do you write your notes? You know, just stuff like that, as well as also practice writing stories. Be a sponge. I say always be willing to learn. We've seen some new people that have come to the DT that are just so intrigued by everything. Like, it makes me smile because they're just lit up by the newsroom and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I really, and I was as well a freshman that was just like, wow, this is so cool. I want to keep learning. And I'm still learning as an editor. And Talawani could probably speak too that, like, you're always constantly learning. And you have to just be willing to learn. A lot of people tend to be like, oh, I've learned it all. Yeah. Like, no, I'm going to be probably 40, still wanting to learn. And then be your own, which, again, it might be a little self-explanatory, but I think if you have your own voice, you're recognizable, you stand out. And it is possible to have your own voice in, like, this field. People, again, I assume, like, oh, well, do as you're told, that's not what your boss said, blah, blah, blah. Like, you see those political journalists that, show their side, They have
a personality.
Exactly. So, Talawani, and again, you don't have to go with 5. I know this was abrupt, but what are your 5, like, tips to excel in this career?
Ooh, okay. I think persistence is definitely key, especially if you're, any kind of writer. If you're working on a story, like you said, you need to believe in it, and you have to be willing to work to get it. That means you're going after sources, you're doing your research, you're asking the hard questions. Don't be afraid. Be tactful always, but don't be afraid to always try to learn more and be curious and get what you want. Because especially as women, it's so, like, I'm sure our sports editor Ariana can speak to this, like, it can be so hard to gain the respect that you deserve, and you really just have to fight for it in every aspect and know that you're capable. What else? You said a lot of really good ones.
Like, you took mine.
Literally. But I would say that's probably the big one. And also, don't be afraid to ask for help. This is one that I need help with so much because, like, whether it's your ego getting in the way or your insecurities, like, you never want to ask for help, but the media and communications, like, community is so open, and there are so many people who are willing to help you. So just, like, ask for help if you need a connection or you need advice. Like, just go up to, like, an advisor, a mentor, or even a fellow journalist, a student journalist, and just be like, hey, I need help, and they will be more than welcome to just help you out because we're all in this together. No, but literally we are all in this together. Like, journalism is so competitive and it can be a little bit cutthroat at times, but we have the same goals. So, like, just ask people for help and they will be open to that. That's my 2 cents.
That's good. I like that. Okay, so something else I want to start with this series is a spotlight journalist. Talawani was excited because she's like, I know this person.
I literally have her, like, pin on my backpack.
So today our spotlight person is Ida B. Wells Barnett. So she was... You go ahead. No, I'm gonna give you the.
I've read through her Wikipedia page a couple of times.
It's okay.
From what I remember, she was kind of like a journalist. She wrote a book, and she was kind of detailing some of the atrocities of slavery that were happening. She would talk about lynchings that were happening in the area, and she was just into the really nitty-gritty of journalism, and she was kind of one of the first Black women to do so. Right. And she was just a pioneer for that kind of, like, investigative journalism.
A couple things I highlighted, and this is from the Medium or womenshistory.org. She was actually expelled from Rusk College because she started a dispute with the university president. So I'm guessing that's where her passion for advocacy started, right? And then she actually was left to raise her brothers and sisters. So not only, like, having that role as a journalist, but I mean, come on, props to, like, being basically a mother figure.
Really.
something she did was she published her findings in a pamphlet, columns, wrote columns in the local newspaper. So yeah, another point I highlighted was she balanced motherhood with her activism. So not only watching her siblings, but she, I believe, had 5 kids.
Wow.
Right. And then what was interesting too is the women's suffrage was she was actually ridiculed and like ostracized by the women's suffrage movement and organizations in the United States. So she kind of had to, I feel like, go into her own realm and again stand on her own pedestal. And I mean, look at her, she's an icon today. She was a founder of the National Association of Colored Women's Club, which was created to address issues dealing with civil rights and the women's suffrage. So, props. And then something interesting, because, you know, I feel like it's good to show people how not far long ago that was. She died March 25th, 1931, which was only 90 years ago.
That's not that long ago.
So, you know, like you said, she paved a way for journalists today. I mean, that tells you that we're still kind of working on it. Like, there are still so many things we're trying to work on and improve. So that's the shout out today. Talawani, do you have any last remarks? Any cool orgs you might be a part of?
Well, if you are a woman or any gender looking to join kind of like a group of like-minded individuals who are in your major, who can like hook you up with internships, scholarships, networking opportunities, blah, 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 join the Association for Women in Communications. We are a national organization, but we have a Lubbock professional chapter and a student chapter here at Tech. Whether you're journalism, advertising, PR, CMI, just join. We have our first meeting on September 16th in the MCOM building, and it'll be a great opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. We went on longer than I thought, which is good. Which is so good. I love overdoing it. Well, that is all the time we have, Red Raiders. Be sure to pick up your copy of the Daily Toreador this coming Thursday and keep up to date with all things tech on our website, dailytoreador.com. Also, be sure to interact with us and the rest of our staff on our Twitters. You're listening to Women in Journalism, a production of the Matador Beat.
You're listening to a production of the Matador Beat.